appreciate that. I don't know, we'll figure it out. But I want to, George Washington Carver said something years ago. He said, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Now you may remember more recently, Arthur Ashe did the same thing. He was a tremendous athlete, and that was one of his motivational speeches. And I want to share that with you this morning. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. A lot of times we think, and I ran into it a lot yesterday at the funeral, people thinking they have to achieve a certain standard before God can begin to use them. We've got to work our way up the ladder for God to be able to do anything with us. And so it kind of solidified the mindset of start where you are.
Amen.
There's a verse, and it's only mentioned one time as far as I know in the entire Bible. And the guy didn't have anything. He was pretty much unknown. But he made a heck of a difference in not only his life, but all of his people's lives. If you want to, turn to Judges chapter 3 and verse number 31. Judges chapter 3 and verse number 31. Some of you may remember a year or two ago I preached out of this particular verse. I think I went a different direction, but it's in this chapter, it's talking about all of the battles and all of the wars and stuff that had been gone through and been done. And in chapter 3 and verse number 21, it says, and after him, so there was somebody else that was fighting wars and somebody else that was battling and somebody else that was a soldier. But it says, and after him was Shamgar, the son of Anath, which slew of the Philistines 600 men with an ox goad. And he also delivered Israel. A nobody that you've never heard about. You've never heard about this guy. You've heard about David. You've heard about Gideon. You've heard about Abraham. You've heard about Moses. You've heard about all of these people. You've heard about Moses delivering Israel from Egypt. You've heard about Gideon delivering. You've heard about Abraham and his being the father of the Jewish. But this guy you've never heard of, Shamgar. Has anybody in here ever heard of Shamgar besides me? For those of you that can't see the congregation, we had one. And she was probably here the time I preached on it before. That's where you heard from, okay. But odds were 600 to 1. Now, I was a pretty bad dude. I've had numerous fights in my life. I've only lost a few. But I have never fought 600 to 1. I have never played a football game that had 600 people on the other team. Not that we're all on the field at the same time, anyway. I've never played a basketball game. There were 600 to 1. We have several military veterans. But I'll guarantee you, even they, as tough as Kirsten is, as cool as Colston thinks it is for Kirsten to be in the Army, I'll guarantee you she's never faced 600 to 1. You know, legends have been created about Robert's prowess as a soldier. But he's never faced 600 to 1. Granted, facing Kirsten is like facing 600 to 1. But this guy took what he had. He started where he was. Wherever he was, whatever ditch he was in, whatever tree he was hiding behind, whatever branch of the military he was in, Maureen, he started where he was. He saw that there was a need, and the only thing he had was a stick. An ox goad. A pointed stick. Any of you ever watched that program on TV, Naked and Scared? You know that started in Genesis, right? Adam, where you at? I'm hiding. Why? You're naked and scared. See? thought so too. But he took what he had. He had an ox goad, and he did what he could. And as a result of him starting where he was and using what he had, doing what he could, the Bible says that he delivered Israel. He was put in the same category as Moses, who led millions of people out of Egypt, through the wilderness, almost into the promised land. I would have said into the promised land, but somebody would have caught, Moses never went into the promised land. Yeah, I know. But he started where he was. He used what he had. He had an ox goad, is all he had. He had a stick, a sharp, pointed stick that you poke oxes in the butt when they slow down. Rosa's got one at the house she uses on me.
Oh, poor thing.
Whenever I slow down, pokes me. No, actually, she tries to get me to slow down. But he did what he could. I'll bet you. I wasn't there, and I haven't talked to anybody who was. But I'll bet you he wasn't going around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $4.99, 500. I bet he was just doing what he could. I preached in a church one time. The preacher was kind of bragging a little bit. He says, "Hey, I got 6 preacher boys sitting down there on the front row." And I made him mad. I said, "Well, how come they ain't out somewhere preaching? There's a world dying and going to hell. How come they're sitting on your front row listening to you? If they're preacher boys, get them out there preaching. There's jails, there's rest homes, there's people's houses, there's neighborhoods, there's places all over Montana that don't have a church. How come they're sitting on your front row waiting for you to die?" Start where you are. So, well, I've got these habits in my life. Start where you are. My language isn't quite what it. Start where you are. I can't give $1,000 a month. Start where you are. I can't sing like a bird. Start where you are. Sound like a crow. I can't start where you are. Use what you have. Somebody's screaming for mommy. Use what you have. It's yours.
I think it might be science, but I don't know.
Start where you are. Well, I don't know that much about the Bible. I feel like other people know more about the Bible than I. Start where you are. Well, I can't preach as good as. Start where you are. I can't sing like. Start where you are. I can't give. Start where you are. I started cleaning toilets a long time before I started preaching messages. I started spending all night with a bunch of teenagers, keeping them off the street, before I started getting a label that says pastor. I cut grass and clean buildings. Start where you are. I don't have, maybe some folks out here listening, if I put it on the internet, maybe some of y'all got 5 or 6 assistants and paid janitors and paid piano players and paid this and paid that. Start where you are. I am all of those. Start where you are. Not you. Let's just go down through some examples in the Bible of well-known people. We talked about Shamgar, nobody ever heard of. But let's talk about people who you have heard about. Let's talk about Abraham. Let's talk about Abraham. He was the child of some idol worshipers. And God said to him, start where you are. Where are we going? Get up and go and I'll show you. Start where you are. Use what you got. I'm going to make a great nation of you. I got no kids. Start where you are. Use what you got. Do what you can. Abraham, you do your part and I'll do the rest. The Bible says he was as good as dead, but God's not. You start where you are with simple obedience. God says give a nickel a week. You start where you are.
That's right.
God says increase it to a dime, $1, $5, $10. You start where you are. God's never going to expect anything out of you that He has not given you.
Right.
You say, I can't afford to tithe. You can't afford not to tithe.
Amen.
Start where you are. Abraham was the son of idol worshippers. God said, get up, get into a land that I'll show you, and I'm going to build of you a great nation. Abraham didn't know where he was going, how he was going to get there, and he was childless, and he was too old to have a kid. God said, start where you are. Start where you are. Use what you have. Use what you got. Well, Pastor, I don't have anything. I got some eggs. Somebody needs some eggs. I got some extra squash. Use what you got. I don't have anything to give. Yeah, you do. Who was that lady in the Bible? I don't even have that one in my notes. Elijah asked her, he said, what have you got in the house? She said, nothing. You want to check again, sweetheart? Well, I got a little jug with some oil in it. Well, let's use it. Use what you have. Do what you can. What you want me to do? I want you to go to all the neighbors and borrow every jug you can find. Well, that seems kind of pointless. You start where you are. You use what you have, and you do what you can, and God will take care of the rest.
Amen.
How about Moses? Moses was a slave baby floating down the river destined for death. You start where you are. He started as crocodile bait. He started as certain death for all the Hebrew babies. God said, start where you are, and I'll take you the rest of the way.
Amen.
The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. This is the path. Walk ye in it. Start where you are. Use what you have. He asked, what you got in your hand? I got a stick. Wave it out over the sea. Throw it down and it'll turn into a snake. Pick it up and it'll turn back into a stick again. Use what you have and God will take care of it. You do what you can and God will do the rest.
Amen.
A fire out behind the house the other day. Called Aaron. Said, where are you? I knew he carried his four-wheeler with a sprayer on it back and forth to town. He said, I'm not too far from your house. I said, bring your sprayer. It's not a fire truck. It's not a big high-pressure hose. It's not. You use what you got. You start where you are. You use what you got and you do what you can. He did everything he possibly could. We had another guy show up with another four-wheeler. We had another guy show up and he wrecked before he got there. But we all did what we could. Luke was out there with a shovel and a hoe, and I'm out there in my sandals and short pants. They all made fun of me. But I looked good. Stomping out fire with sandals on.
I was in my PJ.
There you go.
At least you want to put the clothes back on.
I tell you what, if you want to learn to dance, you try to put out a fire with sandals on. And them hot coals get between your toes. You be stomping around and most of the Baptists around the world would have crucified me. Pastor, you ain't supposed to be dancing. David did, and he did it naked. At least I had sandals and shorts on. Anyhow, we won't know. I told you I ought not put this on the internet. Noah was a nobody from nowhere that knew how to swing a hammer. The only good thing about Noah is he found grace in the eyes of the Lord. God told him, go do what you know how to do. Do what you can. What I do. I know how to operate a hammer. Well, get to building.
Yeah.
Start where you are. Now, if I'd have been God, I'd have tried to convince him to build that boat a little closer to the water. But you start where you are. You use what you have. I got nothing but some pegs and a hammer and some wood. And you do what you can. This church was built on that principle.
Yeah.
We start where we were. We started in an old jail with nothing. Every songbook, every piece of Sunday school material, every piece of wood. I'd go to the dumpster with a load and I'd come back with a load. We sat on bus seats. We made aluminum foil flowers. We started where we were. And we used what we had. And we did what we could. God did the rest. Enoch. Enoch was just a man that went on a walk with God. I'm going on a walk with God today. I'm going on a walk with God today. Most of y'all can do that. I mean, Gabby does it all the time. Just a man that went on a walk with God. Come here, Ty. Start right over there at that flower. Just get up. Come on, hurry up. And walk all the way across. Just walk all the way across. Even a 15-year-old can go on a walk with God. You can go back. Look, twice. An achievement. But that's how Enoch started. And he made it into the Bible. Joseph just another dreamer in a cornfield. We ain't got no farmers in here, but maybe some are out there listening if I turn it on. Just a dreamer in a cornfield. I remember one time I was picking peas. My grandfather was kind of laughing at me a little bit because my back was hurting. And I laid down across the road with the middle of the road in my back, and I was picking peas while I was laying down. Just a dreamer in a pea patch. Just another dreamer in a cornfield. But look what Joseph went. I mean, Joseph went from the pit to Potiphar, to prison, to the palace. You start where you are. He started in the cornfield. How do you know he started in the cornfield? Because his sheaves stood up and the rest of them bowed down to him. And they looked just like in them cartoon colored book pictures of things that Rose Bill's Halloween with corn shucks. Word. Not one from God, it was just a word. Gideon. Gideon was a scared little dude hiding behind the threshing floor messing with some wheat seeds. And the angel shows up. Hey, mighty man of valor. Who, me? I'm the least in the camp. I'm nobody. I'm just a redneck from the wrong side of the tracks. God can't use me. You start where you are. You use what you have. And you do what you can. And God will do the rest. Daniel. Daniel, there's probably more Bible stories been remembered about Daniel. And more prophecy sermons been preached out of the book of Daniel. And Daniel started off as a slave, being taken out of his own country into Babylonian captivity. You start where you are. And you do what you can. Everywhere Daniel went, he took what he had and he did what he could. When's the last time you did everything you could? When was the last time I started where I was? Well, God, if I can ever just get to this point. God, if I ever start making this amount. God, if I ever, and it'll never. If you're waiting for then, it'll never happen. You start where you are, you use what you got, and you do what you can. Elijah, one of my favorite preaching subjects in all of the Bible. Elijah, the master prophet of the Old Testament. The one who called fire down from heaven. The one who said it ain't going to rain unless I say so. The one who outran a chariot for 17 miles. He just appeared. from a place called Tishbe. Where in the sound belly is Tishbe? Over the creek, yeah. Now, people tell me I'm from Hardin, Montana. Where in the devil is Hardin, Montana? Didn't know there was such a place. It just appeared. First time you hear anything about it, you go and tell Ahab it ain't gonna rain. Who are you? I'm Elijah. Because he said it was some slang. I'm Elijah. And who I tell is Elijah? I'm from Tishbe. Next time you go on a job interview, you go ahead and introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Robert, and I'm from Tishbe. See how impressed they are with you. Elisha, he was just a farmer boy working in the field. And then he just turned into this major servant that poured water on the hands of Elijah. Done no big important job, except to God.
That's right.
See, God doesn't have levels. God says you start where you are, you use what you have, and you do what you can. And I'll take care of the rest. David, shepherd boy out singing on the hillside. You know, I like to sing. I'm not very good at it, but I like to. But my best songs are either out on the tractor or in the shower. There's just something about that water drowning out the side of my voice. I don't know if Robert Kirsten can hear me down on the tractor singing or not.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear y'all. And somebody over at the house the other day, is that Robert Kirsten fighting? I said, I don't know if it's Robert Kirsten or Tom and Cheryl, but somebody. Might be me and Rose just echoing off the heels. I don't know. Just teasing. But David was a shepherd boy who started out singing on the hillside. And God only knows the number of stories that have been written about David. God said he was a man after his own heart before he ever came off the hillside. David was a man after God's own heart before he ever killed a giant. David was a man after God's own heart before he ever got anointed king. David was a man after God's own heart before he became the father of the seed of David, Jesus Christ. You start where you are. Now, I ain't never seen anybody that was really good. Cool. I've never really seen anybody that was good at playing a harp. And I know I'll get corrected. But it doesn't look like it's that difficult.
No.
I mean, I do the same thing when I'm trying to dry my underarm. But he was a man after God's own heart, sitting out on the hillside with a bunch of stinky sheep. Blessed be the name, blessed be the name, blessed be the name of the Lord. Start where you are. Use what you got and do what you can. He wasn't even invited to the anointing party. Jonah, whale puke. Start where you are. You said it ain't much to you, well, at least you ain't whale puke. The disciples, I gotta hurry up, y'all getting tired of listening. Peter, the fisherman, a stinky, smelly, sunburned fisherman that liked to fish naked. Kirsten rolling around, reading the Bible. He was out on the boat. Somebody said it's Jesus. He said he dove into the sea and grabbed his coat because he was naked fishing. David dancing before the Lord naked. Adam was created naked. I think there's something to this naked stuff. I gotta go on a major diet before that's gonna happen. I'd be like naked and scared. I'd be weaving some fig leaves together. Philip, James, and John. All three of them were fishermen. I don't know if y'all ever hung around the coast. No, y'all ain't never seen the ocean like that hung around it. Jeez. These people are so deprived. No salt water in their veins.
Praise the Lord.
I was talking to a tech support yesterday afternoon. She was down in Florida. And I said, I'll trade you the mountains for your ocean for a while. She said, I'll take you on, and it's been raining all day. Matthew was the lowest of the low. He was a tax collector. And y'all know what we think of them. Now, Luke was a doctor. And Bartholomew was the son of a king. Just start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. There's 5 others, won't even mention what they were. Judas, it just says he was just Judas. Won't tell what he did before. I think he was probably an accountant because he was the one that kept the treasure bag. You know? I don't know, you know. Don't know. But you start. Maybe you're sitting here this morning. Maybe you're out there listening somewhere this morning. And you say, well, God doesn't need me. God used everybody just like you.
That's right. Amen.
You say, well, I don't have anything. Moses had a stick. Shamgar had a stick. Samson had the jawbone of a donkey. Noah had a hammer. Peter had a boat. Use what you got. Do what you can. Children, y'all got your meat? No, fished all night, ain't got a thing. Throw your net on the other side. You do what you can and God will take care of the rest.
That's right.
Well, I ain't got but $5. You'd be surprised what God can do with your $5.
Yeah.
You look what God has done with this redneck river running backwoods country boy that brought him out here to Montana. Started preaching now. I'm on the flipping radio every day. That's internet. I'm way old school. I'm still putting my sermons on cassette tapes. I just blew some of the preachers out of order because they're still using floppy disks. At least But you start where you are. God, I'm uneducated. God, I'm from the wrong side of the tracks. God, my daddy's got a 5th grade education. God, my grandpa never went to school in his life. God, I ain't got no money. God, I don't know how to go to Bible school. God, I've never been to college in my life. You start where you are. You start where you are. And you use what you got. God gave you a brain. You use it. And now I got a whole box full of degrees sitting in a closet somewhere. And you do what you can.
Yeah.
Do what you can, and then God will do the rest. You do what you can. Now, sitting on your fat fanny complaining about what you ain't got, you're going to end up without having. You talk about all what you can't do, and you ain't going to do. But if you start where you are, and you use what you've got. You talk about not liking school, not being able to study, not being able to learn. That's bull. You start where you are, and you use what you've got, and you do what you can. Somebody just threw one down the toilet. One less kid had to feed this afternoon. Start where you are. Use what you got. And do what you can. And let God do the rest. You say, well, I'm just a sinner. You start where you are. And you use what you got. Lord, I'm a sinner. I know I don't deserve you. I know I don't deserve salvation. You do what you can, Lord, I accept you. Lord, use me. She survived. She made her way out of the toilet. God is going to use that one. because it embarrasses the heck out of her mommy and daddy. And she screams and has a fit, but you keep on bringing that child to church.
Yeah, amen.
And you keep on working with that child, and you keep on teaching that child. One of these days, that child is gonna say, Lord, I'm a sinner.
Amen.
I need you.
Amen.
One of these days, that husband's gonna say, Lord, I'm a sinner. I need you.
Amen.
That parent, that grandchild, that coworker,
Yep.
you start where you are. You use what you have, and you do what you can, and God will do the rest.
Amen.
Because there ain't a preacher on the face of the planet that's ever saved anybody.
That's right.
But we do what we can. God will do the rest. Heavenly Father, I thank you so very much